All right, everybody, welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. Have Schiff and myself here as always. I will apologize to our lack of episodes on the recaps last week. I was out of town on a work trip, so we were unable to get those out. But we are back with honestly what I think should be a pretty good Thursday night matchup. It's the Vikings traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Vikings are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 48. To quickly touch on the Rams' defense, they have been abysmal against the run, ranking 30th in the NFL, giving up just about 152 yards. Middle of the pack against the pass, giving up 213. The reason it's mentioned is Aaron Jones should have an absolute monster game. I would say this game, I mean, he's been incredible this season, but this is a prime matchup. It favors him. Love the Aaron Jones start. Obviously, we were going to make it. Outside of that, you have Jettas that you're obviously starting. Jordan Addison, I don't mind the Jordan Addison start. It's just in 3 of the 4 games he's played, he's only been targeted 4 times. He's only caught 3 passes in every game he's played. And when he didn't score, the one game he scored a touchdown or 2 touchdowns, he got 23 points. And then the other 3 where he didn't, he was single digits. So there is a world where the Vikings win and Jordan Addison isn't a crazy big part of that offense. Just something to monitor going forward. I'm not saying I'm against the Jordan Addison start, but definitely proceed with some caution just because his involvement isn't as much as I would like to see, especially with TJ Hawkinson being out this entire season so far. And to speak of TJ Hawkinson, he is not going to be activated ahead of this game. I assume next week he probably will return, but he will miss this one. If you were planning, I was going to say even if he played in this one, if you had a decent tight end you've been running for the season thus far, I wouldn't force Hawkinson into my lineup the very first week he's back from a serious knee injury. It's just, I don't know the percentage of snaps he was going to play tonight if he did play. And, I assumed he would get a couple catches, he would see some action, but it just seemed like a bit of a risky play, especially with no bye weeks. So it's not like the potential backup tight end you'd been running would be missing this week. And outside of that, Sam Darnold, he's had 5 great weeks and 1 bad week. I think it's safe to play Sam Darnold, but again, we have no buys. So it's a heavy risk to roll him. I see on Sleeper he's being started in 35% of leagues. A lot of those could be deeper formats. There's probably some better options out there, but I will say with some of these coming injuries, like myself, I had Baker Mayfield starting. Would I rather start Baker Mayfield this week? No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, or Sam Darnold? I'd probably rather start Sam Darnold. So it just depends the exact situation. I think Darnold can get you, 15 to 18 fantasy points. And if you have a loaded roster or if you have Jettas and you want the stack, I don't mind leaving it in. And then, of course, the rookie kicker has been solid this season. And the Vikings defense, I'm starting. I'm absolutely starting. They're the number 1 fantasy defense we've talked about. They've played some great teams, and they've performed fantasy-wise the entire time. Even the game against the Packers where they almost blew it. Still finished with 9 fantasy points. The defense gets after the quarterback. They cause turnovers. They wreak havoc. It's just, they're only projected 7 this week, and I genuinely, I just don't think you can take them out at this point.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, they're very aggressive when it comes to going for the ball, and then once they do, happen to get the ball out, they swarm, and they don't jump on the ball. They go for the touchdown every time. Every
Yeah.
single player on that defense seems to have a mind of once they pick that ball up, they are heading straight for the end zone. Because that's been the thing about the Vikings defense. I mean, last week yet again, they punched out the ball from David Montgomery. I think Metellus punched it out. I can't remember who picked it up, Powell or something, runs it back for a touchdown. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it's kind of like the Cowboys defense last year where
Mm-hmm.
it's like this can't keep happening, and it did. I mean, until it stops I
Yeah.
don't want to be, you know, advising anyone not to start a defense that has been just causing havoc like the Vikings have.
Yeah.
But looking at where they have been susceptible, that's in the pass. They are currently giving up 260.3 pass yards per game, which ranks 30th in the league. Um, just 2 spots ahead of my Baltimore Ravens. But it's pretty bad. And just the fact that, Cooper Cup probably could have played in this past week against the Raiders. But
Mm-hmm.
looking at it, if he had played, I mean, I think Sean McVay's quote was that it wasn't just like him getting on the field, it was him returning to, it was like the quality of play that they want him to return. And if you think about
Yeah.
it, he would have had to play on Sunday, then turn around and play again on Thursday night, which coming off of injury would have probably been very difficult for him. So it gave him, just a little bit more time to,
Yeah.
instead of making him play on that quick turnaround. But with him coming back, and then we also got the news that Puka Nakua will play in this game, albeit probably on a limited snap count, but just having both of them back out there definitely just immediately like ups the Rams offense.
For sure.
Without, I mean, you don't even have to like go too deep into it. You've seen what this offense looks like with both of them on the field, and we've also seen what this offense looks like without them. Whittington, Tyler Johnson, Tutu Atwell, and Demarcus Robinson, the combination of all of them, have not just really been able to get it done. So it's exciting to see these two guys back out. Oh, and Colby Parkinson, you can add him in there too. He never really amounted to what we would have hoped with the absence of the two top pass catchers.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I think Cooper Cup is an automatic start. I'm a bit more hesitant, obviously, on Puka Nakua. Now he could go out there and in his limited snaps get a long touchdown or be very relevant in this game. If you are hurting at the wide receiver position, I'm less hesitant, but
Yeah.
if you have the depth, I'm not forcing him in my lineup this week. If
Yeah.
it's a necessity for you, then I'm not holding back. But if it's something that you're taking more of a risk, I wouldn't do it just because, like I said, while he might go out there and have a good game, you kind of regret it. That'd be more of a thing where it's like, okay, that's great. That's encouraging to see. Now the following weeks, I know what I'm getting. I know that
Yeah.
Puka's back rather than like if you have a pretty stacked lineup or you're already looking good and you put him in and then he kind of duds you, it's like you can't really blame that on him. He's coming off of IR. Like they just opened up his
That's
practice
the whole
window
thing. Yeah.
for him to jump back in. So it's like you
Yeah.
can't expect too much, but if you do get a good game, it's more of encouraging than anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Cooper Cup is right back in the lineup though, and then Kyron Williams never has been a question. If you've seen the charts in the consecutive weeks scoring a touchdown, I think if he scores this week, he jumps above quite a few people. Obviously, he's 9 games away from LaDainian Tomlinson's record at 18, but that's probably not. I mean, you can't say it's not going to happen or not. Kyron's been looking good right now, and honestly, with Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua being on the field, it's probably going to open up rush lanes a little bit more for Kyron Williams
For sure.
because they're not going to be able to stack the box as much. You have to pay more attention to those guys, and I mean, I have bet on Kyron getting in the end zone this week. He's done it every week so far. I mean, I think he'll continue to do it again, and even if he doesn't, he's shown to be a dominant running back. I'm not even considering benching him. And Stafford, not. We talked about how there's no buys this week, so I don't think there's a real necessity to start him.
Yeah.
And then one thing that's kind of interesting about this game is there have been rumors of a
Mm-hmm.
trade between the Rams and Vikings, Matt Stafford for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold kind of signing a long-term deal with the Rams, becoming their quarterback of the future, so to say, and then Matt Stafford kind of trying to carry the torch for this Vikings team throughout their potential playoff push. And you'd like to think that if the Vikings win this game, there's a lot more of a chance of that trade actually happening. because if the Rams win, I mean, they're 3-4. The Seahawks play the Bills this week. I think the Seahawks are 4-3.
I believe so. They
That
just
puts the Seahawks at 4-4, and they're number one in the division. It just the Rams, if they win this game, it puts them right back into contention. And obviously, they're not going to trade Matt Stafford at that point, or Cooper Kupp. That being said, but if they lose this game, puts them at 2-5. I think it's more of an obvious rebuild stage, and it's more likely for this trade to go through. But just an interesting tidbit about this game, and the implications that it might have for fantasy for the rest of the season.
yeah,
I mean, if you give, the pass catchers in Minnesota Matt Stafford, yeah, it's a bit more volatile when it comes to his chance of getting injured, but just the potential for just the consistency. I mean, I think Jordan Addison becomes a lot more valuable.
for sure he
I
does.
mean, with TJ Hawkinson coming back, he's going to be a potential top five tight end rest of the season right off the bat. And this is all, speculation, possible things that could happen, but just something to keep an eye out for. And with that, I mean, don't really have too much else to add. I'm not really playing around with any of the other Rams receivers. Like I
Yeah.
said, the tight end. Um, so yeah. Do you got anything else to add?
No, I'm really excited for this one. I think the Rams are going to come out and play a lot better than people think they're going to play in this one.
No, yeah, and I'm hoping so. I mean, I've got Puka Nakua in our dynasty league. I know there's a lot of people banking on Puka and Cooper, for the rest of the season. So this is a big game for the start of that second half push. Hoping for some big things. But like we say, every single episode and every single week, come back next time, take more reps with the first team.
Yes, sir.